Okay, then I welcome StrongPoint to this presentation. Here today we have the CEO, Jakob Tveerabak, with us. So with that, I'll leave the floor to you, Jakob.
Thank you so much, Petter, and thank you everybody for listening to this short presentation of StrongPoint. So for those of you that don't know StrongPoint, we are a retail technology company headquartered and listed on the Oslo Stock Exchange with own offices in Norway, Sweden, the 3 Baltic countries, and in Spain. In addition to that, we are working with a network of partners to distribute our solutions outside these countries. Last year we had a operating revenue of in excess of 1.1 billion Norwegian kroners and just south of 100 million EBITDA. If you go on the next slide, I mean, it's difficult not to reflect on 2020 and the pandemic and what that did with StrongPoint. For StrongPoint, it has turned out to be a little bit of a perfect storm in this one way that the demand for online groceries have skyrocketed. Many markets have accelerated 3, 4, maybe 5 years ahead, making online groceries more mainstream than it has ever been before. And StrongPoint and its e-commerce logistics solutions are just in that sweet spot, which we'll talk a lot more about. But not least, we also have a number of in-store productivity solutions that are there to withstand the margin pressure that you face in the brick and mortar stores. So next page, I would like to, before progressing, just emphasize that we are not only a retail technology company, but really a grocery retail technology company. We have our focus on the grocery retail customers and companies out there in the world. And that's not to sort of say that the grocery retail market is not big enough when you compare with the overall retail market. The grocery retail market is humongous. It's so making sure that we have the best solutions for the grocery retailers is by far enough to drive a very, very exciting growth journey ahead. That said, there are also some spillover effects to other verticals. Do-it-your-own type of stores, for instance, but primarily we are focusing on grocery retail, and on this page we have labeled a few of our customers. In principle, the major grocery retailers in Norway, in Sweden, in the 3 Baltic countries, and emerging so in Spain. Going to the next page, I like to talk about, and we like to talk about StrongPoint's double opportunity. So even pre-COVID, the e-commerce growth was driving 2 opportunities for StrongPoint. And obviously these opportunities have accelerated with COVID-19. Number 1 is that e-commerce in itself drives some of the revenue from stores to online to the online channel, and part of that is going through dark stores, meaning it never really hits the grocery stores. And you can imagine with more and more of the turnover going outside the stores, it means that the stores with their cost levels are experiencing a margin pressure. I would claim we have yet to see that happening because of the closed restaurants, canteens, etc. But what is happening now with the opening of society is that this margin pressure will really, really mount up. So to withstand that margin pressure, technology solutions is a vital part of that solution. and I'll explain in a bit what solutions StrongPoint offer. So that's number one. Number two is obviously that e-commerce in and of itself is growing massively. And StrongPoint has some of the best, if not the best, e-commerce logistics solutions for grocery retailers to take part in the growing e-commerce market. It is no longer a question of if you want to go into e-commerce as a grocery company, it is how fast can you go into the e-commerce market and make that profitable. So again, for those of you not familiar with StrongPoint, I will go through very briefly some of the solutions we offer in store and in our e-commerce logistics suite of solutions. So if you go to the next page, we have basically taken the roof of a supermarket or a grocery store. And a non-exhaustive overview of the solutions we offer is presented here. So on the one hand side, you would have self-checkout solutions, which have obviously increased a lot in interest with COVID-19, wanting to reduce the amount of contact with both people and others. We have number two, we have electronic shelf labels. As StrongPoint, we have contributed to, in particular, Norway being one of the highest penetrated ESL markets in the world. It is virtually impossible to go into a grocery store without seeing electronic shelf labels. Number three, we have our VenSafe solution, the tobacco automation solution, which is not only tobacco automation, but is also a solution which very nicely fits into the self-checkout solutions and other checkout efficiency solutions, making that almost like a rebirth of that solution. On number four, we have task and labor management solution. We are a proud partner of Reflexis, the workforce and task management solution that was acquired by Zebra last year. That is very important. As we know, grocery stores have their highest cost item, apart from COGS, being labor. And so being able to optimize the labor and how labor works in the store is very, very important to withstand the margin pressure. Cash management, you'd think cash is dead. The recently announced deal we did with NorgesGruppen in Norway proves that that's not the case even now. But in all honesty, the major bulk of growth in cash management we are expecting to come from other economies such as Spain, Italy, Greece, and other more cash-intensive industries. Then in the intersection between what goes on in the store and e-commerce, we have here illustrated our picking solution. We'll talk more about that. So the in-store picking solution from StrongPoint, and also the click and collect lockers where customers can obtain the purchased items efficiently and for the retailer at a very, very cost-efficient manner. So there was a very quick and, again, not comprehensive overview of what we provide in the brick and mortar stores. Going into what we do in e-commerce a little bit more in detail, on the next page, we will see the solutions we operate with as illustrated here. So in the e-commerce logistics space for groceries, there are really two major bulk of cost items that need to be solved. One of the items is picking, and the other is the last mile delivery. And StrongPoint, we provide the most efficient picking solution for the stores. We are not into robotized solutions like the Fabric, the AutoStore, the Takeoffs of the world, or Ocado for that matter. that is interesting to have a look at, but that's not an area in which we at least have developed something ourselves, but are cooperating or will be cooperating in the future, I'm certain about. On the last mile delivery, we provide click and collect locker, drive-throughs, pickup in store as own proprietary solutions. And we work with Gordon's delivery on both the route optimization and home delivery. So in total, StrongPoint provides the entire solution for any grocery retailer from an order is received in the web store until it is delivered to customer. And we'll talk more about e-commerce. I know that's a hot topic. So we can go to the next slide, please. So I want to give you a little bit of more flavor on what are the USPs of StrongPoint's picking solution. So number one, we are the most efficient solution we have seen out in the market. When we are exploring competitor benchmarks for how fast and how efficient can you do picking in store, we see no other solution coming close to what we are offering. We offer higher or more than 240 items per man hour picked in store across categories. So more than 240 items per store or picked per hour in the store. And if you were to go to one of the major consultancy companies, they would probably give you a benchmark of 60 to 90 items per man hour. There's a huge difference, actually so big that it's sometimes difficult to believe how it could be this big. And I think I'd like to just provide a twofold answer to that. Number one is we are coming from Scandinavia, from Norway, Sweden, the highest low-cost countries in the world, which means our solutions for manual picking, if you want, needs to be very, very efficient. Needs to be very, very efficient. There's a reason why the AutoStore and Odas of the world are also getting lots of success. We are Nordic-based. We need to be efficient. That's the only way our solutions will work with local clients. And number two is we've been doing this for more than 20 years. That is with the acquisition that StrongPoint did of Cube back in 2017. We have invested heavily into the Cube picking solution and continuously modified and accelerated the movement to make the picking as efficiently as possible. That's number one. Number two reason for why our picking solution is so good is that's extremely fast to deploy. Typically, any grocery retailer of a certain size would have some sort of a handheld device in the store or an ARM PDA to facilitate order intake, making orders, or receiving goods. We're using to a large extent a lot of the same type of hardware in the store, and with very few additions to that, we're able to scale the solution both practically, but also through our cloud-based picking solution that we're rolling out as we speak. And lastly, it's because of that, a very, very low capex. Our third generation picking solution operates with a fee per order and making the cost overview for our customers very, very transparent. Let's go to the next page and talk a little bit about the ambitions, and then we'll talk about what the proof of the pudding is for our e-commerce logistics solutions. Some 1.5 years ago, StrongPoint went out with its ambition of being a 2.5 billion kroner company in 2025. We were confessably somewhat hesitant to repeat that again in the midst of the pandemic in March, but very quickly realized that the expected decline in cash management potential we would see would be more than made up for in the e-commerce logistics suite. And so the majority of the bulk of StrongPoint's growth going forward versus 2020 is going to come from e-commerce logistics. And this is a massive growth. We know that, but we also know that we have some stellar solutions that are gaining lots of traction in the market. So I'll use the remainder of the presentation to talk about the e-commerce solutions that we're offering and what we are achieving in the market. So you can go to the next page, please. So to provide you a little bit of top-down understanding of how is the market growing for online groceries. On the left-hand side, what we have here is the online grocery sales estimates in our target market, so principally the US and Europe. And you will see there was a big jump, of course, from 2019 to 2020, a doubling of the amount of revenue going through the online channel in groceries. We are expecting, along with analysts, expecting this trend to continue with about 15% annual growth rate. So that fundament makes us go into, well, how do you process these orders, both from a picking point of view, but also from a delivery point of view when you look at technologies. And you would also very quickly realize that the CAGR, the growth, is slightly higher in terms of number of orders being processed versus revenue. And that simply has to do with the fact that one expects, and we expect, more smaller purchases to be done, amongst others through the Globus, Deliveroo, and Delivery Hero type of growth as well, as you see with the delivery platforms. Simply said, StrongPoint, we provide all the delivery technology solutions that you have out there, as just explained. And when you're looking at the picking solution, we are offering the pick in store and also the pick in dark store solution as our proprietary solution. And in order to convert this into sort of an addressable market available for StrongPoint, you can say, simply said, you can say that the picking solutions, as well as the home delivery, drive-through, and in-store delivery is all part of the software license market, versus the click and collect market, which is predominantly a hardware market, so the click and collect lockers being sold to the retailers. So if we go to the next page, we'll have a deep dive into what does this mean for the addressable market for StrongPoint. And we're seeing a massive growth, 17% CAGR in the software licenses and 36% CAGR in click and collect lockers, which means that maintaining today's market share, StrongPoint would be doubling its software license fees and 4 to 5 times doubling its click and collect locker sales. Of course, we and our ambitions are not to just follow the market. We want to grow and gain market share, and we believe we have a very strong value proposition to actually make that happen. So let me try to give a little bit of proof in the pudding. If you go to the next page and talk about what are the addressable market for StrongPoint, you could be separating between these kinds of players. We are clearly working with both grocery retailers with an existing e-commerce offering, where click and collect for sure is very, very attractive and applicable, but also picking solution. And simply the, I should say, conservative reason for putting it in brackets is a lot of companies already have existing picking solution and making it a little bit harder to sell the solution, but the performance of our solution makes that very attractive. Newcomers basically need it all. Pure online players, like the Odas of the world, to most extent are developing solutions themselves. However, we also do see some click and collect opportunities there. And then lastly, the on-delivery platform players are, as you've seen, getting its act and going into the grocery retail space, making our picking solution in particular very, very applicable. On the next page, just wanted to prove the point on the delivery platforms. We, in Q1, announced the deal with Glovo. Glovo is one of the very few, and if not the biggest one, of the very biggest unicorns in Spain. More than 20 countries, and actually, as announced earlier today, Glovo acquired a major bulk of Delivery Hero's Balkan operations, increasing the number of markets they're penetrating as well. And the interesting thing, and to provide you a little bit of proof on how good the StrongPoint picking solution is in fact the fact that a delivery technology unicorn as Glovo has selected StrongPoint's picking solution to be used with its partners, Carrefour's, Spar, Walmart, etc., when doing grocery picking in their stores. So we're very, very proud of that, have high expectations for the growth to come after some time, but not least, it's the marketing effect also to our customers that the StrongPoint picking solution is world-class, if not best in class. One or two more slides now, and then I think we'll open for questions. But immediate priorities. Number one, we have a full focus on capitalizing on the e-commerce logistics market. It's difficult to believe that not all grocery retailers have moved into e-commerce yet, but there still are some exceptions, Norway being one of those markets. I have great hopes that we will see things happening in not only Norway and Sweden going forward, but in all markets going forward, and we are there to capitalize on that. We're there to deliver on the in-store productivity solutions demand that will push its way forward even more so now with the economies opening up, putting even more pressure on the margins and revenue in the stores. And lastly, which we haven't covered much of in today, is step up the M&A initiatives. We see a number of initiatives that we could take in place to further make StrongPoint a really, really retail technology company, not only in the core markets we are now, but also outside these core markets where we see a good product market fit. So my last slide, I only want to summarize. We are underlining our ambition to become a 2.5 billion kroner company in 2025 by organic growth, so M&A in addition to that. To grow our e-commerce share from, in 2019, 6% to 9% last year, and 25% in 2025. And last but not least, go from a sub 9% EBITDA margin to a 13 to 15% EBITDA margin in 2025. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jakob. I think we have room for a couple of questions. So I'll just start with the e-commerce and logistics, which will be the growth engine going forward here. And you also touched upon, some of the subcategories, but can you also share somewhat more lights there? Which of these subcategories are you seeing the strongest momentum? And also, do you see some differences between your regions?
I think the short answer to that is there is growth across the board. There's growth across the board. I think as an investor, what you should know is that clearly the picking solution being a software-based solution where we are charging a cost per order is going to have a steadily growing type of profile going forward. Whereas we both hope and expect that with click and collect becoming a preferred means of receiving your groceries, not only like in Sweden, you will see more sort of rollouts with bigger announcements of rollouts. So I think it's fair to say that we're seeing a growth the growth across the board on all dimensions. It's almost difficult to single out one versus the other.
Understood. And then also, I mean, obviously the grocery sector has seen a boost now in sales during the COVID-19. Have you seen any increase in the willingness to do investments in new retail technology? And how do you expect that going forward?
Yeah, I think with a few notable exceptions, I believe most of the grocery retailers realize two things. One, e-commerce is here to both stay and grow. It's not going away, and hence you need to invest in that. And number two is the fact that last year did see a unnatural growth with the closing of canteens, restaurants, etc. And so most groceries are bracing themselves for what you call tough year when you compare growth in the stores versus last year. And that's where it comes into the sort of margin pressure. And the good thing is, of course, with, again, very few exceptions, these grocery chains have the financial capabilities to do these investments and are in it for the long run. So the short answer would be yes. I think by far the most amount of grocery chains are investing in the future for this new normal.
Okay, perfect. I think, I mean, we could sit here and ask questions for the next hour, but I think our time is up. And I thank you so much, Jakob, for sharing your thoughts and the presentation of StrongPoint.
Thank you so much.